Hey, good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to Chalk Talk. I'm your host, Kim Davis. Today is Tuesday, October 11th. No, it's not. It's October 24th. I guess I'm trying to go back before the whole ALCS started, but it's October 24th, and I'm excited to be with you today. It's been a long week, a long night. The Houston Astros lost game 7 at home in the ALCS last night to the Texas Rangers, which means the Texas Rangers will advance to the World Series. They await the winner of today's game 7 between the Philadelphia Phillies and the Arizona Diamondbacks to see who they will face. We'll talk a lot about the Astros today. It was quite a season. They finished the regular season at 90 and 72, had a bye because they won the division in the wild card. Faced, excuse me, the Twins, defeated the Twins in the ALDS, and then went on to fall to the Rangers 4-3 in the ALCS. Now, the overriding theme in the ALCS in this series with the Astros was that they couldn't win at home. They did win a game at home in the ALDS. They did not win a game at home in the ALCS. They lost the first 2 games at home against the Rangers, went to Arlington and won games 3, 4, and 5. Came back to Houston with a 3-2 lead, a chance to take the series, and couldn't get it done. Could not get it done. Struggled offensively, and also really struggled with some starting pitching. Framber Valdez did not have great outings his last 2 starts, which were the 2 losses he lost in Arlington. No, he lost before they went to Arlington and when they got back. And then last night in game 7, Christian Javier just did not have it. He didn't have it. And so the pitching failed them. And offensively, they just couldn't get a lot done when they had people on base. We're going to talk about that. And here's the thing. What this team was able to overcome this season was nothing short of really amazing, right? It really wasn't. They had a lot of injuries. If you think about Jose Altuve being out for 40-plus games, losing Alvarez a couple of times, no Lance McCullers, no Luis Garcia from the beginning of the season. So 2 of your starting 5 are gone. And then Justin Verlander was not a part of this team until the last, 10, 11 weeks of the season when they traded to bring him back. So it was a lot of, there was some veteran presence on this team with a guy like, Bregman and Altuve. Anyway, I think there's a lot that they can be proud of, right? It is as Jeremy Peña, which I'll let you hear from shortly, said last night, he wouldn't call it a successful season, but he would call it a season, he said it was just it is what it is, and when you go in the clubhouse after a team loses, it doesn't matter about anything else. What they feel immediately is that loss. But I'm going to share some things today about what this team really accomplished this year. And the ultimate goal is to win a World Series title. So at the end of the season, there's really only one team that's happy. It's the team that's standing. And so it's a tough loss. It was a tough clubhouse to be in because I was in the clubhouse last year when they won, when they celebrated being champions. And so not being able to get it done, especially at home in front of their home crowds, was really difficult for them. A lot of talk about Dusty Baker and what his future may or may not be because, he's got a life and he's thinking about it. He hasn't made any decisions as of yet. And he even said, hey, listen, right now it's not about me. He didn't want to take the spotlight away from his players. That's the guy that Dusty Baker is. But before we get into some of the season as a whole, let's talk about the game last night. They lost 11-4 to the Texas Rangers. And here's my score sheet. You probably can't really make it out that well. But this is the Rangers side, right? So what you see is a lot of the things that are the diamonds that are colored in, those are the Rangers. So in the first inning, they got off on Javier. They almost went through the entire lineup. They got through 8 batters. He struck out the pitcher. Well, he didn't strike him out. They had to pull him. Dusty had to pull him and bring in Phil Maton, but they got 3 runs in the first inning, right? Adolis Garcia had a great night. He hit 2 home runs. He scored, of course, the 2 home runs. He also scored in the first after hitting getting on base on a single. And so here's the thing: Adolis Garcia, also known as the ALCS MVP, well deserved. I mean, he's good, right? They just couldn't get him out. And so after the game last night, somebody asked Dusty why he continued to pitch to Garcia. Here's what Dusty said about that.
That was no way we continue to pitch to Garcia. Why they continue to pitch to Yordan. I mean, you got to pitch to him at some point in time. I mean, that's baseball. He was hot. I mean, he's been hot, the whole series. We did strike him out quite a few times, but, he got us. I mean, like when you get beat 11-3, I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff you can point to, in that ball game. And so, we just got beat. Sometimes, there's no rhyme or reason. Sometimes you lose, and sometimes you get beat. There's a difference. We got beat.
As Dusty said, when you lose 11-4, there's a whole lot of stuff you didn't do right. And sometimes you got to say, you know what? We got beat. And clearly the Rangers were the better team last night. They offensively were on from the very beginning. They jumped on Javier. Their bats were hot early. And the Astros pitching really just failed them. And then their offense, when they had some opportunities, their offense wasn't able to get it done. Dusty talked about, what he said to the team after the game last night. And he talked a little bit here about his future. Here's Dusty on, what he said to his team when he went into the clubhouse after the loss.
I overcame a lot of stuff. We overcame a lot of stuff. It's people wondering why we weren't where we were. It doesn't matter who we were suiting up. It didn't matter, who we had injured. I mean, I personally got a whole bunch of undue criticism for whatever. You know what I mean? So you wear it, you hold your head up high, and you think about what you've accomplished versus what you've lost. And this city is proud of this team. We've made, over the last 4 years that I've been here, and did 3 before I got here, I mean, we brought a lot of enjoyment. And created a lot of fans that weren't fans. And not to mention, every time I go down the street, the hotels are full, the bars are full, the restaurants are full. I mean, we've helped this place out economically big time. It sometimes goes unnoticed because these streets would have been empty in the last 2 weeks. But instead, I saw a whole bunch of people out, having a good time. They live and die, with the team, and we live and die with the wins and losses.
Okay, so that wasn't the one when he talked about what he said to the team. This is what he's really just talking about the season. And he said, listen, there's a lot of things that they overcame adversity. And he mentioned the undue criticism. And if you follow my show, this show at all, you've heard me talk about it. And it's not that Dusty Baker is not someone who should ever be criticized. Is the undue and unfair criticism? It doesn't matter. For the people who have decided that they don't like Dusty, if the pitcher's not throwing well, it's Dusty's fault. If somebody's not swinging the bat well, it's Dusty's fault. At some point, you've got to stop. And especially when you see how these players react and respond to Dusty Baker, um, they hold him in high regard and have a ton of respect. And here's one player who summed it up for himself. So Mauricio Dubon talked about his relationship with Dusty, the season, and on if Dusty does retire, his thoughts about it. Here is Mauricio Dubon.
It sucks. I mean, it sucks. You don't want to, at the end of the day, you want to pour champagne on everybody, but I guess it's not our year. Happens.
Here's a report out that Dusty thinks if this is if that's the case, what are you going to move on?
He gave me the chance to be Mauricio. He gave me the chance to go out there, and when Jose went down, he gave me a chance to go out there and give him, when people were talking shit, he was the one that gave me the support and going out there, even when he came back. People were still talking shit, but he threw me out there and ended up making things happen.
What's that like? Describe what that's like when you have Skipper believes in you. You just go about your business and put up the numbers you did.
No, it's crazy. I mean, it makes it want to run through a brick wall for him. I think that's how I play. Dusty gave me the chance to go out there and perform, and you don't know what's going to happen, but I'm going to be forever grateful for him in my career.
That was Mauricio Dubon. He also talked about his relationship with Michael Brantley. He said that growing up, he watched Michael Brantley. He saw him swing. He wanted to be like Michael Brantley. And so just the respect he had, he talked about being able to play around future Hall of Famers, playing around a guy like Jose Altuve and a guy like Yordan Alvarez and Michael Brantley. And the list goes on. He just had such fondness, as most of them did. The ones I talked to, they all did, about each other in the clubhouse, and that it's a close-knit family, and they look forward to coming back and getting this thing back on the road next year. So a lot still left in the tank, a lot of uncertainty, some unanswered questions. And here's Justin Verlander, who, of course, was a part of the championship team in 17 and again last year in 22, who was signed with the Mets as a free agent in the offseason and came back to Houston via trade right before the deadline. Here's Justin Verlander.
We would have liked to be able to get it done here, and there's no simple answer as to why we didn't play great at home. Just things. Obviously, would have liked to have it gone different.
Could be a couple more years where you think it's the chances for you guys to get back and make another run at this?
Yeah, I mean that's obviously one of the reasons why I wanted to come back here was obviously not just set up for success just the rest of the season. I think moving forward, there's still a good window available. So a little early to say I'm excited about next year. Still obviously dealing with this, but I think that was on my mind before.
Oh, at the beginning of that clip, that was Justin Verlander really talking about the question that everybody has, right? Why can't this team, if we knew the answer to it, we would we'd fix it, but nobody knows, right? Who knows what it was? And Chas McCormick talked about it a little bit. He was asked about it, and he also talked about his thoughts about Dusty Baker. Here's outfielder Chas McCormick.
I wish I had an answer. I'm not sure. I can only, maybe we just pressed, in front of our home fans. We just pressed a little bit. We tried to do too much. I just think this series we couldn't come up with that big hit, especially 2 outs. But yeah, I don't know. I thought our big boys played great in the playoffs. I think maybe in bottom order. Myself, I don't think we played well enough to, be able to win a World Series.
Chas, can you talk about what it's been like to play for Dusty and what you think about him as a manager?
Yeah, it's been great. I hope he comes back next year. It's been awesome. I mean, I've learned a lot from him. He's known baseball for so long now, and just being around him every single day in the clubhouse, he's really helped me grow as a person.
Thank you.
Chas, what do you see in this?
So that was Chas McCormick, pardon me, talking about Dusty Baker. And And just the question, like you said, not really sure. Oh, hang on a second. I'm gonna bring that back. That's the one where Dusty's talking about the team. Chad's talking about they don't know what it was, like pressing, were there too many distractions? It became a thing. And here's what I believe. Once it became a thing, where they were struggling to win at home in September and beyond, it became a thing and it gets in your head. And then now we're home, right? So when you go on the road, you just play and you do what you do. I don't know. Obviously, I don't have the answer. If I did, I could have bottled it up and sold it to somebody. But seriously, that is something that I guess will fix itself in the off season. They'll come back. They'll figure it out. But it's not like the whole year they couldn't win at home. But especially down the stretch in September, they just had a much better road record, and it's tough to win a championship if you can't win at home. And if you remember back in 2019, I don't think it was the home as much as I think it was AJ Hinch not calling a great game in Game 7, but they didn't. The road team won all the games in that series. So, the Nationals win a title in 2019, right? But this not being able to win at home has not been a thing forever with this team, but it was a thing when it was really important. Now I'm going to play the tape. Here's Dusty talking about what he said when he went into the clubhouse last night. Okay. I think you call it technology. Hang on a sec.
And I don't know, I haven't had time to, I just told the guys I love them and I appreciate their effort and appreciate how they go about their business and how professional that they are. And I don't know, I haven't had time to evaluate and think about my future because, I'm down the list as far as, like I'm not that kind of dude. I don't want to steal the spotlight or anything from these guys. You gotta savor what we did. You gotta think about how we can get better, and then I'll evaluate my situation in my life. And so we'll see. I talked to my daughter. I got 2 grandsons, a year and a half. I mean, I've really sort of cheated them for my quest for another ring. I got 2 dogs, hunting dogs, a year old. They wouldn't even know me when I walk in the house because I haven't been home since February the 10th. Anybody here been away from home that long? You have? Wow.
Absolutely, 225 days a year.
Wow. I don't want your job.
So that was Dusty Baker. Last night, he said the first thing he did, he told the guys he loved them and that he appreciated them. And that's what we heard from different guys in the clubhouse. And it's a sentiment that is shared. And while there was a lot of outside noise, I didn't play, I'll play some clips throughout the rest of the week because I can't get them all in today's show. But, Dubon talked about how he turned to one guy, Chandler, and said, one reporter said, you said I wouldn't play, and Dubon did play. And he turned to another reporter, Brian McTaggart, and he said, you said I wouldn't be, never get a gold, go be a gold glove, get a gold glove. He said, and I've been nominated for one. So the believing in themselves and not being so caught up with what things that everybody says on the outside was something that they did well. There could be a lot of changes. Does Michael Brantley, does he come back? Does he retire? He didn't say. He says, what he does every year is he talks to his family, he talks to his wife, he talks to his parents as he, looks to make the decision about his future. Does he want to come back? Will the Astros bring him back? He was, remember, although he was on the team for the championship in 22, he didn't play because he went out with that shoulder injury in, I believe, like in June or so, and never played. He didn't get back in action until late in this season down the stretch. So does he want to fight that hard to try to get healthy and stay healthy? Is he done? I don't know. He didn't know. There's a lot of, unanswered questions about the future. There's some players that are probably up for arbitration or for free agents. Let me see. I had the list. Let me see if I can pull it up. The ones that some decisions will have to be made about this offseason. And let's see, free agents. Let's see, I'm trying to find it about the names. So a few of the people, the Astros, in terms of who's coming up to be, okay. So Michael Brantley, Martin Maldonado, Stanek, Phil Maton, Hector Neris, who has a player's option. They're all free agents. Bregman and Altuve are free agents after next season. So after the 24th season, Ryan Presley could be, and then Tucker and Valdez are free agents after 2025. So there could be a lot of changes in terms of what will happen this offseason. Dana Brown, who will have a complete offseason to get in and do some work. Not that he's been waiting to figure out what will happen next season, but he has his hands full in terms of constructing this roster. Who do you keep? Who do you sign? Who do you part ways with? Who do you go out, where are the holes? Who do you go out and try to get to give you some more umph in this lineup or maybe in the rotation? So the assumption's always been that the Astros would just elevate Joe Espada whenever Dusty Baker's time as a manager came to an end. I say an assumption. That's what people say. I don't know that I've ever heard Jim Crane say that, but the Astros have not been a team that is hired from within since Jim Crane has been in place. All three managers he's hired have come from outside the organization, just as all three general managers have. Now, it doesn't mean we can't. It's just, it's just been the pattern to this point, or it's been the case to this point. I don't want to say it's been a pattern. That's just how it's been. So James Click and Dana Brown were hired from other teams after the team had experienced a great deal of success. So because the Astros have been successful, does he just hire from within and elevate Espada? Not really sure. The bullpen, free agents in the bullpen, if you can't get those extensions done, and who is the manager, those are the big questions, the extensions, who's the manager. So while Dusty hadn't thought about it yet, I'm sure they'll have those conversations pretty quickly, because as he makes a decision and the team makes a decision, it's got to be a joint, obviously. If he retires, it's his decision. But if it's whether or not he comes back, the team has to say, we want you back, and he has to want to come back. So much to really figure out. It will be a really interesting offseason. Here is Alex Bregman. And of course, everybody's that we talked to, they sounded down, but they had just lost. So there should not be gleeful and joyfulness, and no one's thinking of it as, a moral victory. It's not how they wanted to end the season. Here is Alex Bregman in the clubhouse after last night's game.
Baseball's a game of failure. You're going to fail more times than you succeed in this game. And like I said before, it's kind of what lights a fire under you and keeps you coming back for more, and kind of.
What does he say to you guys after the game?
Just it was a pleasure, and he loved the fight in this room. The guys busted their tails all year long, and that he was proud of the effort.
I know that was so proud.
So that was Alex Bregman last night. He said, I thought it was interesting, which is why I played that clip. Baseball is a game of failures. You're going to fail more than you succeed. And think about it. If a player is hitting 300, which means 3 out of 10 times he's getting a hit, then that's a successful hitter. right? Which means 30% of the time you're getting on base, that's successful, which means 70% of the time you're not. So when he says baseball is a game of failures, look at how we determine success in baseball, which I thought was really, really interesting. I also wanted to let you hear from Jeremy Peña, who, like Chaz experience with Chas McCormick, for instance, his experience as an Astro was 22, was 2 years getting to the World Series. The first one they lost, last year they won, and then this year falling short in the ALCS. So it's different for them, right? They've not experienced this. And here is Jeremy Peña, who came up as a rookie last season, had an amazing run, was the ALCS, both ALCS and World Series MVP. And so he's never experienced this. Here is Jeremy after last night's game in the clubhouse.
It was a hard-fought year for sure. A lot of ups, a lot of downs. But yeah, go back to the drawing board and I'll go from there.
You didn't experience this last year. What was this clubhouse like after the loss?
I mean, what can I say? We lost. It wasn't. It is what it is. We didn't pull through the way we wanted, and move on.
Jeremy, one of the questions moving forward is Dusty going to come back, whether he does or not? What's it like playing for him?
I mean, Dusty Baker is a legend in the sport. And I've loved every single day that I've gotten to share with him on this ball club. He's been great for me. He's shown so much confidence in me, and yeah, he's been a great manager.
Jeremy, you were.
So there was Jeremy Peña after last night's game, and the sentiment around the clubhouse was consistent. No one felt good about it. They don't call it a success, even though they got to the ALCS for the organization, the 7th consecutive year, right? 4 years under Dusty, 3 years before he got there. They've been to the World Series. They've won it. I mean, this has been a good run, and I say has been a good run. I'm not sure that it's over. It depends on what happens this offseason, how they reload, what they come back with. But this is a very viable team and organization and a lot to build from. So, that gives you a sense in the clubhouse of, how players were feeling, how Dusty felt, what the sentiment was, and, the fact that everybody's clear there's a future. This ball club's got some talent. But there are also some uncertainties, as I just talked about, some of the free agents that have to be decided on this offseason. I've had a couple people hit me up and say, hey, what do you think about Kyle Tucker and his arbitration? So the Astros tend to look at what happens during the regular season. If that's the case, then his arbitration, he should be okay. But if you throw in postseason, he struggled. In fact, not only did he struggle because players struggle, he just looked like he would have rather had been having a root canal. I mean, and I say that seriously, he looked dejected. He looked defeated. That's it, not dejected. He looked defeated. And he even looked that way in the field. It was just not, and he's not a real, in terms of in public, just super gregarious and, outgoing personality. He's not that guy. But what you saw from him, his body language and everything on the field, and then, of course, at the plate, it was just a struggle. And you hate to see that for a guy as talented as Kyle Tucker. So whatever that is, hopefully he gets it fixed. Hopefully guys like Framber will go back and maybe reconnect with a sports psychologist. I don't say that with any kind of, in terms of being ugly. He talked about that being one of the things that helped him last season. How he had worked on controlling and managing his emotions. That may be something, if he's not still doing it, he should revisit because it was successful for him. And while he had some awful outings in the ALCS, Framber Valdez was a very productive pitcher for this team. So again, a lot of things to build on, and it's tough. So as I mentioned, the Texas Rangers are now headed to the World Series. They await the winner of today's game between the Phillies and the Diamondbacks. The Diamondbacks beat the Phillies in Philadelphia yesterday at 5-1. And now people are going, oh, so maybe the D-backs could win, right? So whenever you can never count a team out, because if you get to this point in the season, I don't care what anybody says, you're pretty good. There is no luck to get you to be in the semifinals of baseball, because that's really what the championship series are. It's the semifinals of the West, of the American League, and the semifinals of the National League. You're pretty good to get to this point. So somebody asked Dusty last night, do you think the Rangers, what are their chances for winning? And he said, they can hit, and they can hit. They have a potent offense. And I think the key with the Rangers is you've got to get to their bullpen. If you get to their bullpen, the earlier you get to their bullpen, the better shot you have if your team is swinging the bat well and having productive at bats when you've got runners, when you got action on the bases. If you've got runners on the bases, or you've got runners in scoring position, how many times that we see the Astros with bases loaded? A couple times, no outs, 1 out, and you got nothing. Or Jordan last night, Alvarez gets the leadoff triple, and nobody can bring him home. So you've got to have some productive bats when you got runners in scoring position. When you've got action on the base path, you gotta take advantage of those opportunities, and the Astros did not do that. So I will say the Astros have nothing to be ashamed of. It was a solid season. They overcame a lot. And kudos to Dana Brown and Dusty Baker and really the entire team, because they did fight through a lot. So we'll talk more about the Astros. I'm sure the next couple of days they will have their press conference, and we'll talk with Dana, and we'll talk with Jim Crane, perhaps about the future of Dusty, and they'll start talking about free agents and what the focus is for this offseason. I'll keep you posted. So the Astros season is a wrap, but and as that one closes, the Houston Rockets season gets underway tomorrow night. The regular season opens in Orlando against the Magic. Their home opener is Sunday night. I will be at the home opener on Sunday night, where they take on the Golden State Warriors. With, of course, Chris Paul is now with the Warriors, but they will face the Golden State Warriors in their home season opener. As for the Houston Texans, the team is 3-3. This past Sunday was their bye week. They're back in action. They go to Carolina this week to take on the Carolina Panthers. Of course, there was a lot of thought about, it's going to be CJ Stroud versus Bryce Young, although they're both quarterbacks, but I get it, right? Bryce Young was the number 1 overall pick, the quarterback out of Alabama, and of course, CJ Stroud, the Texans' number 2 pick, their starting quarterback out of the Ohio State University. A much better start to their careers for any number of reasons. The Panthers are 0-6. The Texans are 3-3. And so, of course, there are the questions asked of D'Amico yesterday, what he remembers about evaluating both quarterbacks, CJ and Bryce Young, before the draft. He said it was a good process. What you're seeing from both of them is that they have a lot of experience. They played a lot of ball in college. And it was clear to me that both guys were the top 2 quarterbacks coming out in this draft. And they've done a really nice job. It's tough on rookie quarterbacks. And I know this week people are going to want to talk about, we got to probably ask CJ today, what are your thoughts about Bryce Young? The situations are different. The players are different. And so there's not a lot. What is D'Amico supposed to say about another team's quarterback as a rookie, other than what challenges from a game plan perspective he presents? So that is a lot of the conversation this year. The Panthers defense is obviously stronger than their offense. It starts up front with a Derek Brown and Brian Burns. And you got to play good defense, right? So they're back in action this week. The Texans are. Tank Dell was on the field yesterday, which is great news for the Texans. Remember, he didn't play in the game before the bye week against the Saints. Even though the Texans did win that game, he was still in concussion protocol. So he did not play. He practiced yesterday. So the expectation is, at least at this point, that he is going to be on the field on Sunday. I was not at practice yesterday, but um, reports say that Laramie Tunzel was not practicing. So I'm not sure what that's about. The injury reports don't come out. That will start until Wednesday. So tomorrow we'll see if he's banged up or if he's resting. But if you're coming from a bye week, I can't imagine it's rest. But I guess we will see. So the Texans are back in action against the Panthers on the road this Sunday. They're 3-3, and the Panthers are 0-6. They need to go on the road and get that. That's the game that they should win and play up to what they've been doing and continue as they continue to work on this run game, right? To try to get the run game going, which will ultimately help CJ and the overall offense. So the Texans are back in action this weekend. And as I mentioned, the Rockets will get to see them in a game that counts. They were productive and successful in preseason in terms of wins and losses. But as we know, that none of that matters starting tomorrow. What doesn't matter, period. What matters is it gave them a chance to see how they were doing. I'm pulling up the schedule to give you the first few games of their schedule. So, because right now, as it says in their record, they're 0-0, right? So what they did before, none of that matters. So they opened the game at Orlando on Wednesday. Then they traveled to San Antonio to play them for like the 18th time already. They played the San Antonio Spurs a few times. So they play the Spurs in a game that counts on Friday night in San Antonio. And then they're back home for their season opener on Sunday night against the Golden State Warriors. Then they're home for most of November. So they have the Golden State game is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Starts out a 7-game homestand. 3, 6, 7. Yep, there are 7 straight games at home, which is a great start, especially when you have a lot of new things that you're trying to put together, a new coach, some new pieces. Then they're on the road for 3 games. They're back home for 2, and then they're on the road for another 3. So their schedule in November is good for them in terms of how much they're home. Their biggest probably road trip doesn't really come until January, and then in February they're on the road most of the month. So they get a chance early to try to get their legs under them as a team and kind of feel their way before they're having to have these long road stretches. And that's great for the young guys because the road trips are things that always kind of challenge them. So follow along every place that you see, wherever you're following me here, and every place that you see Chalk Talk. I'm asking you to follow the work, share the video, and I will see you next Tuesday at 11 on Chalk Talk. In the meantime, have a great week. Congratulations again to Dusty and the Astros, even though they fell short. I mean, congratulations on the overall season. And let's see what these Rockets do and these Texans do this week. Make it a great week, everybody. I'll see you next week on Chalk Talk. Remember, if you're in Texas, early voting has started. Make sure that you vote. Make sure that you're an informed voter. There are places where you can go and get information about the politics, the candidates, and also the propositions. Be an informed voter and definitely make sure you vote. Make it a great week, everybody. Remember, do something kind for yourself and do something kind for somebody else. Peace.